But Luke, Sonic Team hasn't made a sequel to a game since Sonic Adventure 2.
If you comment something along these lines, you're next. A lot of people are expecting the next Sonic Team game to expand on the formula set by Frontiers, but what could this potential sequel look like, and what story and gameplay differences are likely for this theoretical game to have? I'm mainly touching on the story and gameplay for this video, so let's start at the top. Considering the tone of the original game, we can probably expect Ian Flynn to return here. It really depends on if this game will build off of the Starfall Islands, or if it's just an entirely new story that just so happens to share a similar gameplay style to Frontiers. If we assume the former, then I'm not sure how they would tackle that, because I feel like we've already seen everything there is to the Starfall Islands. Sure, there are some loose ends here and there, but I just don't see them revisiting this place, at least not anytime soon. If we assume the latter, though, that could be pretty interesting. If Ian Flynn does stay as the dialogue writer going forward, I'm excited for what the story will turn out to be. Personally, while the Starfall Islands were a really cool new place to visit, they really weren't that Sonic-y. And I used to dislike this argument as well, since the Starfall Islands are clearly supposed to be this outlandish place, but it's still in Sonic's world, isn't it? Like, we can still have loop-de-loops, corkscrews, and all the other things that are in, let's see, like, every other Sonic game. I really want to see some cool new creative locations. Get this guy out of here. The last game to have this was Colors. That's crazy to think about, and honestly, I really miss it. And hey, even if you don't want that, you can even take inspiration from the adventure games, 06, or Unleashed, which took heavy inspiration from real-life locations, but still exaggerated them to feel fitting for a Sonic game. So, for the sequel to Frontiers, I really want Sonic to feel like a part of the environment, especially if the story is original. Now, for the gameplay, they've already got a great framework to work off of. But if they do end up making a sequel to Frontiers, there's still some necessary quality of life improvements they'd have to implement. First off, we need more focus on momentum here. Sonic's been missing solid momentum platforming for a long time now, and while it seems like a small touch, it actually has a massive impact on the way the player will approach the platforming. It just adds an extra layer of depth to the controls. Having to think about the most efficient ways to explore each stage while keeping the flow is why Sonic games are so fun after all. Obviously, I don't mind the lack of momentum, but it's something that undeniably enhances the platforming. Second of all, cyberspace. I think the dramatic effect spoke for itself here. I've already talked about all the ways cyberspace can be improved upon in this video, so I'll just keep it brief here. Make some original level aesthetics, give us more freedom in the controls, and toughen up the ranks a bit. It's pretty simple, honestly. Cyberspace actually gets really good level design at the end of the game, so if all of them were original, I wouldn't even mind them for a sequel. Another cool thing I'd like to see regarding the gameplay is some NPCs throughout the open zone. Aside from the main story, character interaction was something that was pretty missing from Frontiers. I mean, with reason, the inhabitants are dead, but I'm curious to see how more character-based missions could work for the game. When I play a game like Banjo-Kazooie, every objective feels unique, because there's so many different characters that I interact with. But with Frontiers, you do a platforming section, get the collectible, and you're done every single time. The only exception to this rule are the Coco missions, which, there are... Or you could even have a system like Sonic Adventure, where you talk to strangers by the way, and see how everyone is reacting to the events of the story by just having a chat. I just talked about the environments in the story segment, but it also has impact on the gameplay. While these locations are beautiful, I often find myself thinking this map wasn't made with Sonic's gameplay in mind. It feels like I'm playing a mod that ports another game's map into Frontiers, and it's a shame. The environment design in Forces was actually pretty decent, but they really gotta learn to apply that skill to the open zone. There's a big problem with Frontiers, where most of the platforming sections feel very self-contained. They feel slapped onto the terrain without much thought for their placement. It results in kind of confusing island design, where two completely disconnected platforming sections aren't that well distinguishable from each other. So that's what I'd like to see from a sequel to Frontiers, but while it's fun to speculate about the future, sometimes it's good to reminisce about the past as well. Man, it'd be cool to have like one big retrospective of Sonic Frontiers from the announcement of the game to the release in video form. Ah, too bad.